Welcome back, students. In this session, we'll be completing the last part of the chapter on this Indian nationalism, that is chapter 12, and we'll be starting off with chapter 13, as I have told you in the last session. So, we have dealt with the various small organizations that were formed, and then we have also talked about the Ilbert Bill controversy. So now we'll be talking about Indian National Congress. So as we know, there were small organizations or associations which would help in leading the national freedom struggle, but there was no one particular organization that would actually allow the or lead the national struggle or lead the struggle towards independence. So there was no united, there was no one organization. So there, one organization which would under which all the the struggle of the entire India, the struggle of the people of entire India would can be combined, was formed by the thought process of Alan Octavian Hume, A.O. Hume. So he was a retired British civil servant who was very eager to call for the people towards the welfare of India and also the freedom of India, and took the initiative to form an association. So he proposed the organization would work for the moral, material and the political progress of the country, and some prominent Indians like Dadabhai Naroji, Feroz Shah Mehta and Badruddin Taibji, they had formed an Indian National Union earlier. So now A.O. Hume's association and the Indian National Union was merged, and in 1884, it was merged to form the Indian National Congress. Hence, we see the formation of Indian National Congress under the idea or thought process of A.O. Hume. He is also known as the father of Indian nationalism because his idea was led to the formation of an organization which was all India, and all the other small associations merged together to form the Indian National Congress. The first meeting of Indian National Congress was presided over by W.C. Banerjee, and it represented the urge of politically conscious Indians to set up a national body to represent the political and the economic demands of the people. Here, there are the objectives of Indian National Congress given. I'm not repeating it by reading it. You go through it. The objectives are important, and so it would put forward the various demands, economical, social, political, every demands of Indians, and would also work for the welfare of the people. So go through the objectives which are given. Now we'll move on to chapter 13, that is Indian nationalism. So now we'll be dealing with the Indian nationalism during 1885 to 1916, this period. So during this period, the Indian nationalism, there was a bit change in the Indian nationalism. We could see that there was a formation of All India Association which would take care of the welfare needs of the people, and would put forward the economic, social and all the demands of the people of India. So through an association, now everything would be put forward to the Britishers. So after the formation of Indian National Congress, they started working, and the Congress got divided into two types of nationalists. So the people, the members of the Indian National Congress were known as nationalists. So now there were two types of nationalists: the early nationalists, that is the moderates, and the later nationalists or the radical nationalists, that those were known as the radicals. So there was a division between the early nationalists and the radical nationalists. About all the divisions we'll be also talking in detail in the rest of the sections where we'll be talking about the pro changes and the no changes. That is what we'll be discussing later on. But now, for the time being, we'll be dealing with the early nationalists and the later nationalists. So the early nationalists were known as the moderates. These were the middle class intelligentsia consisting of W.C. Banerjee, Dalabhai Naoroji, Firoz Shah Mehta, etc. So they believed that they believed in the idea that Indians were benefited by the Britishers, by the various like the various laws, various types of schemes which was taken by the Britishers, which actually helped in the betterment or progressment of the nation. They believed in this particular fact, and their aim was to persuade the British. Their aim was to be passive, they wanted to deal with the British in a very passive manner by talking to them, by having discussions, by sitting, by persuading them, by convincing them about the needs of the people. And it would, they believed in the fact that if they continue with this policy of persuading the Britishers, then the Britishers will be finally convinced, and they will transfer the power to the Indians. So the main objectives of the moderates were the taxes on Indians and the military expenditure of the Britishers should be reduced, and the government policy should change. The benefits of the Indians should change to benefit the Indians. India, along with Britain, should be the center of the ICS exams, the Indian Civil Service exams. Nationalists wanted higher posts for the Indians in the government. So these were the various objectives of the early nationalists. Their method of working was it was constitutional agitation, like being within the constitutional setup, being within the administrative setup, and persuading the rulers to listen to them while being in the constitutional setup. That was their ideology. So moderates believed in arousing political consciousness among the Indians and forming strong public opinions in favor of their demands. They also organized annual sessions to educate the Indians to achieve their aims. Remember, they wanted to be in the government and protest. They wanted to be in the government and take part in every activities of the government, and put forward their ideas, which will be representing the ideas or the demands of the whole India, of the people of whole India. So they presented the demands to the authorities through petitions, memorandums, resolutions, and speeches. To influence the British government and to enlighten the British public, the early nationalists sent deputations of leading Indian leaders to England. The British Committee in 1889, the British Committee of Indian National Congress started a journal called India. So this was the earlier methods of the early nationalists, which was used by the early nationalists, and they tried to be within the government and introduce changes. But the later nationalists or the radical nationalists were convinced about the fact that this passive way of agitation would not suffice, would not help them in bringing about change or in bringing about freedom. So there was a radical nationalist group of people who who wanted to bring about changes in the government, changes in the administrative system by protesting against them, and also they wanted to force the British to implement changes, unlike the early nationalists who were passive. So the most important radical national leaders were Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and Bipin Chandra Pal. So about Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and Bipin Chandra Pal, it is being described over here. So you have to remember that Lala Lajpat Rai had been an active member of the Arya Samaj, and also he explained the difference between begging for concessions and asserting one's rights. So this radical nationalists were more into assertion rather than being passive. They were the active nationalists who used to assert or force the British to like implement the welfare schemes, implement the various schemes for the benefits of the people, unlike the passive nationalists. Then Bal Gangadhar Tilak was another important leader who, according to whom, no amount of legislation could eradicate social evils, but freedom from foreign rule would remove the evils automatically. Then Bipin Chandra Pal was an active worker of the Brahmo Samaj, and he was associated with journals like New India, Vande Mataram, and Anand Bazar Patrika. He believed in the complete independence. So remember, all the radical nationalists believed in complete independence rather than being under foreign rule or persuading them to implement changes. Their methods of working, so they revived the faith in glorious culture of India to generate the spirit of nationalism. They were in favor of involving the masses and for more aggressive political association, and had no faith in achieving their goals through constitutional means. They did not want to be in the government and persuade. They wanted to assert them, or through more political agitation, they wanted to assert their ideas. They favored the direct action against the government instead of giving petitions in order to fulfill their demands. Violence and sacrifices were not ruled out to achieve their goals. So they were more active, they were more benevolent, or they were more rigorous in their attempts to make the British implement the rules, and also they were more they focused on complete independence. They started the various schemes of national movements, that is Swadeshi and boycott movements, and promotion of national education. So these few schemes of revolt were being adopted or implemented by them. So this was the Indian politics during this time, and in the next session we'll be dealing with partition of Bengal and the rest of the portion of this chapter. So that will be all. Go through the chapter, and we'll be coming back with the next portion in the next session. That will be all. Thank you.